Hello guys, welcome again to Bible Study with Ada, and we're going to be talking about Exodus 2. So here are the few things that I learned from this book. First things first, the Bible is telling us that Moses' parents were Levites. So let's take a deep dive into the ancestor Levi. What was he about? Levi was the third child, right, of Jacob. And if you remember, him and his brother Simeon orchestrated that killing and violence when, we know the story that happened with his sister and all of that. And I remember that Jacob was talking about the fact that, because of their rage and anger, they were going to be scattered. And that just tells me that the people of, you could say that, the generation, were people of hot-headed people, right? And I'm just wondering here, does this apply to Moses? However, regardless of their negative family history, later on, these were people, the Levites, were people that were separated for God's use and were priests, right, for his service. It just tells me that God can change your family history. I wrote here that Moses came from a tribe whose essential story included fierce anger, yet God transformed that lineage into a tribe entrusted with his presence, his worship, and his holy service. So nothing God cannot do. Remove all those conversations, my people used to be this, my people used to be that. When you come into God, your story can change, right? Another thing that I saw is the fact that in verse 2, Moses' mom saw that he was a special child and she hid him. And it was just a note to parents: hide your child. We need to protect the giftings and that quality that God has put in that child. We need to try to protect them. Right? When you notice your child has a gift, learn to steward that gift, protect him and prepare him for that season. And that is what she did. Another thing that I saw is the fact that, Moses' mom, she hid him. She could only hide him for 3 months. And at some point, she could hide him no longer. And, it was very instructive for me because I was like, she had to release him to preserve him. So sometimes, to preserve a thing, you have to release that thing. It might be hard, it might be difficult. I imagine, what could have gone through her mind that season. But she had to. So sometimes, to preserve a thing, you have to release that. And how do we get to this knowledge? We understand this by understanding that life is in seasons. There are different phases of life. There is a phase where you have to protect a thing by hiding it. There's also the phase where you have to protect that thing by releasing it. So different strategies would play out in these different phases. So we cannot use the strategy of the protecting phase as the same strategy for the releasing phase. Different strategies, we need to understand that. And one beautiful thing is the fact that before she released him, she knew she had to release him. And before she did that, she prepared for it. She didn't just dump him. The Bible was telling us that she weaved, she got a basket, she waterproofed the basket with tar and all of that, so that, he will not drown. And as same thing, as parents, right? Anyone stewarding anything, when that time of release comes, we should try to prepare for that, right? We must not release them unprotected. We need to protect. She waterproofed so that he doesn't get drowned. Same thing, when we're releasing our children, when the time comes, send them to the world, we should have, protected them and instill the right values that will keep them. So we need to ensure that we're teaching people how to not just live in our presence, but how to survive in our absence as parents. That is what we should do. As anyone, in charge of anything, that is what we should do. Teaching people how to survive in our absence. We should just prepare because it comes with preparation. We should not spiritualize it. Or rather spiritualize our responsibility, because that's what people do. They will just say, but I've left it in the hands of God. Imagine if Moses' mother did that. He would just drown. He would die, right? She made sure that she prepared the basket first. That should be priority before sending him. And then you can now say, okay, God, I've done my part. I've left it in your hands, right? So let's be careful. And then I could say the beautiful progression that he followed. It was, the different seasons. There was the hiding, there was the preparation, there was the waterproofing, there was the releasing. And then this last part I'm going to talk about, there was the watching phase, watching with expectation. So this is where the sister comes in, Miriam, right? So we see that, after all of this, Moses has been sent out. The sister is watching, the sister is following. And to zero in on this, I just saw that it just showed us the position that as Christians we need to take when we're believing God for something, when we're praying. Are we watchful? And then so many things were highlighted to me. The first was the fact that she was expectant. And I'm like, she followed with expectation. She just wanted to see. I felt like she knew, for you to follow that much, she knew that something good was going to happen. She was expecting. And I'm like, as Christians, when we're praying, when we've prayed about something, are we really expecting anything? Because to be expectant, you have to be watchful. Are we praying and just, you've even forgotten the prayer point? You don't even know, you're not expecting. And when you're expecting, there's a character and posture of someone that is expecting. And that is what the sister had. So as a Christian, as you're praying for that thing, as you're believing for that thing, what posture do you have? Sometimes we pray and then our posture is as those that don't even believe that we have prayed. So what's the point? It tells me that we need to be expectant. She stayed to see what will happen. That is our posture. We need to stay enough to see what will happen, right? And then the second thing is she was ready. This girl was not just going to watch and stay and then nothing. When the opportunity presented itself, she will not now know what to do. That is how most of us are. We pray, we're expecting something, but then we're not even ready for it, as though we don't even think past the fact that, okay, when this thing actually happens, what do I do? Do I have the right staff to manage that gig? Do I have the right pitch? Do I have the right CV? Do I have the right catalog? It's as though we're not even prepared. She was prepared. She knew what she was going to say when the opportunity presented itself. Maybe God put words in her mouth, but she was prepared, and that is how we should be. So when the opportunity comes, it should not just meet lack of preparedness or preparation. That would be crazy, right? Hey, she was very bold. So imagine the dynamics. This is a young Israelite, right? Speaking to the princess, Pharaoh's daughter, in a situation that is already tensed enough. The decree has been sent. The culture between the Israelites and Egyptians was already clear. The boldness to go and speak when she saw the opportunity needs to be studied. And this is where most of us Christians fail, because you have prayed for a thing. Imagine you're praying for your business. You're not even bold enough to pitch that business to people. You're not even bold enough to speak. Most of the times we say, oh, God, do this for us, do this. When the thing comes, you want to shy away. I've seen Christians that are even afraid to take big gigs because they're afraid, well, how would it go? You're forgetting, my pastor used to say this thing, right? That it's the lion's heart, the person with the lion's heart that takes the lion's share. You're not brave. You're not going to take it. You're not going to do anything big. You're not going to see anything big. Basically, sometimes the answer to your prayer is on the other side of the conversation that you're afraid to have. And she was wise. Wisdom is knowing what to say, how to say it, and when not to talk too much. She knew what to say. She knew when to call her mom, and she didn't just so those are the few things I learned from, her situation. It was expectation, preparation, boldness, and then wisdom. And then I think that one of the last things that I learned from this is the fact that Pharaoh's strategy became God's instrument. Pharaoh thought he had won when he made that decree. And then God used the same Nile, the same river, to preserve and even package his deliverance strategy. That is God. It might seem like the enemies have won. But don't worry, wait now. It's at the end that you will know and see, the perfection of God's plan. And that's just what happened here. So let's not assume that the enemy has won because the strategy is currently working. God can take the very weapon formed against you and make it part of your deliverance. Clock it. Right? And then, lastly, let's talk about passion. We can see that Moses' passion was not far-fetched. And it was, in line with his call. So most of the time, those things you're noticing, those things that you can't just stop thinking about, those passions, those burdens, it might be in alignment with your call. God put those passions there. I wrote in my note that, Moses' passion was connected to his calling. Sometimes the burden that keeps disturbing you is connected to the assignment God is developing in you. But this is the balance. The passion is not supposed to take over that assignment, to take over that call. That is where Moses failed. We need to let that passion go through God. Let God go through it. Let God refine it, right? And let maturity set in. I wrote in my notes that Moses had passion without maturity. He wanted to deliver the people, right? That's why he made mistakes, forgetting that God wanted to deliver the people through him. So we should let maturity, set in, right? Passion have, to come under submission.